What if I told you that the very system designed to keep San Francisco's elite athletes on the field might actually be putting them on the injury report? That the strength and conditioning philosophy meant to forge warriors could be creating casualties instead? Buckle up, because the exclusive intel I'm about to drop will make you question everything you thought you knew about the 49ers' decade-long injury nightmare. Let me take you inside a conversation that happened last night, one that's been echoing through NFL training facilities, physical therapy clinics, and strength coaching circles for years. I sat down with someone who's lived this world, an athletic trainer who's worked with multiple NFL franchises and top-tier college programs. This isn't some armchair analyst or keyboard warrior. This is someone who's taped ankles in NFL locker rooms, designed workout programs for professional athletes, and knows exactly what separates championship-caliber training staffs from the rest. And when I brought up the 49ers' catastrophic injury history, a topic that's become as predictable as death and taxes in the Bay Area, this person didn't hesitate. It's pretty well known among us. They said, "What San Francisco does is different." Different. That word hung in the air like a red flag on a questionable pass interference call. Here's where it gets fascinating, folks. Dustin Little, the 49ers head athletic trainer, has been with this organization for 6 years. 6 years that coincide almost perfectly with some of the most injury-plagued seasons in franchise history. And according to my source, Little has developed his own distinct philosophy when it comes to strength and conditioning, weightlifting protocols, movement techniques, and overall training strategy. Now, before the pitchforks come out, let me be crystal clear. This isn't about saying Dustin Little is doing something wrong or bad. This is about recognizing that in the world of athletic performance, there are 1,000 different roads to the same destination, and not all of them work for every traveler. What works brilliantly for one organization might be kryptonite for another. And in San Francisco's case, the evidence is screaming at us from every injury report, every IR designation, every crushing blow to Super Bowl aspirations. Think about it this way. Since Kyle Shanahan took over as head coach in 2017, the 49ers have been a top 10 team in injury rate every single season except one. That's not a coincidence. That's not bad luck. That's a pattern so consistent you could set your watch to it. Here's where we need to dive into the weeds a bit, because understanding this issue requires understanding how NFL strength and conditioning actually works. When players arrive in the NFL, they're already elite physical specimens. They've been training their entire lives. They've worked with high school coaches, college strength staffs, private trainers. Their bodies have adapted to specific movement patterns, specific lifting techniques, specific recovery protocols. What happens when you suddenly introduce completely new methodologies? When you ask a body that's been doing things one way for 20 years to suddenly do them another way? According to my source, that's exactly what can happen in San Francisco. The 49ers have their own way of doing things, their own lifting techniques, their own movement patterns, their own training philosophy. And when players arrive, whether through the draft or free agency, they're introduced to this system. Sometimes their bodies adapt beautifully. Sometimes they don't. When your body isn't used to something, it can break down, my source explained. You're putting players through movements and positions they're not accustomed to, and that can lead to injury problems, especially soft tissue injuries. And there it is, the smoking gun. Soft tissue injuries. Hamstring pulls, calf strains, muscle tears. These aren't the collision injuries you expect in football. These aren't the broken bones from getting rolled up on or the concussions from helmet-to-helmet contact. These are the preventable injuries, the avoidable ones, the kind that proper training techniques are specifically designed to eliminate. How many hamstring injuries have we seen this year alone? How many calf problems? How many mysterious tightness designations that keep star players off the field? The 49ers haven't been plagued by catastrophic collision injuries, Fred Warner's ankle, Cam Akers' broken leg. Those are pure bad luck in a violent sport. But the endless parade of soft tissue problems? That's a different story entirely. And here's the kicker. These injuries are happening during the season when players are under the direct supervision of the 49ers strength and conditioning staff. Sure, guys work with private trainers in the offseason. That's standard across the NFL. But from training camp through the playoffs, they're in the facility, following the program, doing the workouts prescribed by the team. And during those months, San Francisco has been one of the most injured teams in football year after year after year. My source also touched on something that's been whispered about in NFL circles: the 49ers stretching protocols. San Francisco emphasizes dynamic stretching before practices, movement-based stretching that keeps the body active, rather than static stretching where you hold positions for extended periods. Some teams swear by dynamic stretching. Others incorporate more static work. There's legitimate debate in the sports science community about which approach is superior. But here's the thing: when you're consistently at the top of the injury charts, every element of your program deserves scrutiny. Is dynamic stretching the problem? Maybe not. But combined with unique lifting techniques, novel movement patterns, and a training philosophy that differs from what players experience before arriving in San Francisco, could it be contributing to the issue? That's the question that needs answering. And we can't ignore the elephant in the room, or rather, the electrical substation next to the practice facility. I've reported on this before, and it remains a topic of conversation inside the building. The 49ers facility sits adjacent to an electrical substation, and emerging research on electromagnetic fields suggests potential links to soft tissue injuries, impaired recovery, and even more serious health concerns. Is this science fiction or legitimate concern? The research is still developing, but when players themselves, like former NFL lineman John Feliciano, start talking about it, when it becomes a topic of discussion among the training staff, it deserves consideration. Especially when you're looking at nearly a decade of injury data that defies explanation. Let's talk cold, hard facts. Since Kyle Shanahan became head coach, the 49ers have lost more than 2,000 games to injury, approaching 3,000 by some counts. That's not just leading the league. That's lapping the field. That's historic levels of unavailability that have directly impacted championship aspirations. 2023 was the outlier, the one season where San Francisco seemed to catch a break. And what happened? They went to the Super Bowl. That's not a coincidence. That's proof that when this roster is healthy, they're one of the most talented teams in football. But keeping them healthy has proven impossible under the current system. Now, I know what some of you are thinking. Source, trust me, bro. I see the tweets, the comments, the skepticism. And look, I get it. In an era of misinformation and hot takes, healthy skepticism is smart. But let me be clear about something. I don't waste your time with made-up stories. When I report something, it's because I've received credible information from knowledgeable sources that I believe is worth sharing. I've been working in media for over a decade. I graduated from Temple University's broadcasting program, one of the best in the country, in 2015. I've worked in television, radio, podcasting, digital media. I've covered news, sports, politics, pop culture. I've worked for major news stations and built platforms that reach millions of people monthly. Over that time, you naturally develop connections, sources, relationships with people across various industries. The fitness and athletic training community is particularly interconnected. Trainers talk to trainers. Strength coaches network with strength coaches. Physical therapists compare notes. And when one organization has injury problems as pronounced and persistent as San Francisco's, it becomes a topic of professional conversation. People in this field are trying to understand what's happening, to learn from it, to avoid making the same mistakes. Here's something interesting that my source pointed out. The 49ers' training methods do have benefits. San Francisco takes pride in being a physical football team. They impose their will. They dominate in the trenches. They play a brand of football that's built on toughness and strength. And their training program contributes to that identity. But there's a trade-off. The same techniques that might create that physicality could also be creating vulnerability. It's like building a race car with a powerful engine but fragile suspension. You might go fast when everything's working, but you're one bump away from disaster. The The 49ers don't suffer an unusual number of collision injuries. They're not getting blown up more than other teams. But those soft tissue injuries, the ones that proper conditioning is supposed to prevent, keep piling up. It's the classic case of winning the battle but losing the war. So, where does this leave us? If the training methods are suspect, if the facility location might be problematic, if the injury history is undeniable, what changes? Who's accountable? Dustin Little has been a constant in this organization for 6 years. The injury problems predate him slightly, but they've certainly continued on his watch. Does that mean he should be replaced? That's above my pay grade. But it does mean that every element of the program should be on the table for evaluation. Kyle Shanahan is one of the best offensive minds in football. His scheme is brilliant. His play calling is creative. But if his organization's approach to player health and conditioning is fundamentally flawed, that's a problem that no amount of X's and O's can solve. You can't run the perfect play if your best players are in the training room. The solution here isn't simple. You can't just fire everyone and start over. But you can ask hard questions. You can bring in outside consultants to evaluate your methods. You can look at what the healthiest teams in the NFL are doing differently. You can be willing to admit that maybe, just maybe, your way isn't the best way. The 49ers have the talent to win a Super Bowl. We've seen it. When healthy, they're dominant. But when healthy has become the biggest 2 words in San Francisco's vocabulary. And until the organization is willing to take a hard look at why those 2 words are necessary so often, the cycle will continue. This isn't about pointing fingers or assigning blame. This is about problem solving. This is about recognizing that when you have nearly a decade of data pointing in the same direction, you have to be willing to question your assumptions and change your approach. The 49ers' injury crisis isn't just bad luck. It's not just the nature of football. It's a systemic issue that demands systemic solutions. And according to people who work in this field, who understand athletic training and conditioning at the highest levels, the organization's unique approach might be part of the problem. Will the 49ers make changes? Will they bring in outside perspectives? Will they be willing to abandon methods that aren't working, even if they're comfortable and familiar? That remains to be seen. But one thing is certain. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results. San Francisco has been doing the same thing for 8 years. The results speak for themselves. Now, it's your turn. Drop a like if this reporting opened your eyes to what's really happening in Santa Clara, and hit the comments with your take. Is it time for the 49ers to completely overhaul their training staff, or is this just the price of playing physical football? Let's get this conversation going.